Hi, I'm Dabria. I was 8 months pregnant when my own mother yelled at me to stand up in a crowded clinic, just so my sister wouldn't have to. But that was only the beginning. They called it love, but it felt like slow erasure signing my name on documents I didn't understand, watching my baby become their legacy, not mine. They said I was unstable. They said I was dramatic. But what kind of family files to take your child before he's even born? And when your silence is used against you, what do you do then? The waiting room smelled like floor cleaner and spearmint gum. I shifted in my seat, pressing one palm against the side of my stomach, the other clutching the folder the nurse had given me. The Texas sun had already drained what little strength I had left, getting from the parking lot into the clinic. I was 33, 8 months pregnant, and exhausted in ways I didn't even have words for anymore. The overhead TV played a muted talk show while the reception printer clicked softly behind the front desk. My name hadn't been called yet, but I was grateful to just be sitting, letting my body rest for a few quiet minutes. That stillness lasted less than 10 seconds. "Why are you sitting?" My mother's voice tore across the room like a siren. "Your sister's standing!" Every eye in the room shifted toward me. I froze. I didn't turn around. I didn't look at anyone. My mother, Varela, marched in like she owned the clinic and grabbed my elbow with a firm hand. "Get up!" she hissed low. "You're embarrassing us!" Callista was right behind her, immaculate as ever heels, sleek dress, makeup set like she was attending a gala instead of a routine checkup. She said nothing, didn't gesture to stop our mother, didn't even blink. I stood, legs trembling under the weight of my body and the sudden spotlight. My chest tightened, breath short. I wasn't angry yet, just stunned, mortified. No one said a word, not the nurse behind the glass, not the man flipping through a magazine 2 seats over, not the elderly woman across the aisle. They all looked away the way people do when a stranger falls in public, and no one wants to be the one to help. I bit the inside of my cheek, hard. The sharp pain gave me something to focus on, something real. My mother released my arm and walked forward like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just humiliated her pregnant daughter in front of a room full of strangers. Why did I come with them? Why do I keep giving her the benefit of the doubt? I stayed quiet the entire walk to the exam room. When the nurse finally called my name, my mother pushed ahead of me and started chatting with her like she was the patient. The nurse glanced between us, confused. "Congratulations, Mom-to-be," she said with a smile, looking directly at Callista. Callista laughed light and polished, like it was part of a stage performance. "Oh no, not me," she said sweetly. "But thank you." And still my mother didn't correct her. The nurse handed the ultrasound folder to Callista, who took it without hesitation. My heart thudded so loudly I could barely hear anything else. That was my scan. That was my appointment. That was my baby. And in that moment, I didn't even feel like his mother anymore. I stood in the corner of the room, hands folded over my stomach, while Callista flipped through the images like she just unwrapped a gift. I wasn't even in the frame. I was background, optional. The appointment passed in a blur. I nodded when spoken to. I smiled when expected. My mind floated somewhere above my head, watching it all like a bystander. In the car ride home, I sat in the back. No one offered me the front seat. Varela chatted with Callista about church schedules, about Easter plans, about some neighbor's daughter who was accepted into med school. No one asked how I was feeling. "You handled that beautifully, Callie," Varela said as we turned onto our street. "You always do." Callista gave a small smile and didn't respond. She didn't need to. My mother's approval poured over her like syrup sweet, thick, suffocating. I stared out the window, trying to ignore the burn climbing up my throat. I pressed my hand against my belly again, not protectively, but to ground myself. I needed something to tether me, something real. My phone buzzed in my lap. Unknown number. "Still standing?" That was all it said. No name. But I knew. Arlena. It had been years. We hadn't talked since she moved away and disappeared from the family radar. But she knew. Somehow, she knew. I didn't respond. Not yet. but her words lit a small flame inside me. Not rage, not revenge, just the start of something waking up. I wasn't sure what hurt more, that they humiliated me or that I let them. That question stayed with me all night, and by morning, I had a name for it: fury. I didn't throw anything, didn't yell, didn't even cry. I just lay there, eyes fixed on the ceiling fan blades, slicing the quiet in slow motion. Each rotation ticked off a reason I should have left sooner. But I didn't. And now, they were making choices about my baby without me. Around 10, I walked to the mailbox barefoot. The concrete was warm, not hot enough to sting. I liked the bite it felt deserved. The envelope had the clinic's return address. I expected appointment reminders or billing, but what I got felt more like a slap in the face. Under primary caregiver, they'd listed Callista, not me. Not the person growing the child. The person wearing the makeup and sitting pretty while I stood behind her like set dressing. I walked back inside without a word, found my mother in the kitchen peeling apples. "You listed Callista as the caregiver?" She didn't pause. "Well, you know how these systems are. If you go into labor early, it's easier if she's already cleared, just in case." I stared at her. "In case I die?" She looked up then, blinking once like it said something foolish. "Don't be dramatic, Dabria. It's for efficiency." That word again. Efficiency. That's all I was to them now, an obstacle to be worked around. She didn't apologize, didn't ask if I was okay with it. And worse, she genuinely seemed to believe it made sense. That afternoon, I couldn't focus on anything. The house felt too small, too loud, too choreographed. Every hallway was a reminder that nothing here belonged to Menot, even the decisions about my child. Dinner came sooner than I wanted. Aunt Pearl was visiting from San Antonio, which meant a full table and fake smiles. Callista sat at the head, swirling red wine like it was part of her brand. She wore a linen blouse that probably cost more than my last rent check. I hadn't had time to change out of the same cotton dress I'd been wearing all week. Varela barked orders like a dinner sergeant. "Dabria, rice. Dabria, napkins. Dabria, more water." I waddled back and forth between the table and the kitchen, belly tight, ankles aching. No one offered to help, not even when I nearly dropped a pitcher. Halfway through, Aunt Pearl looked over and said, "I thought pregnant women got pampered in this house." Callista chuckled, flicking her wrist. "Oh, Dabria's tough." "She's a trooper." I smiled because that's what they expected. But my grip on the dinner plate tightened hard enough that I felt the porcelain warm beneath my fingers. Trooper, like I was some noble mule in their parade, dragging weight without complaint. After everyone left, I stood at the sink, scrubbing plates, while the others laughed in the living room. No one said thank you, no one offered to help. I was invisible, but only when they didn't need something. Later, in the guest bathroom, I sat on the edge of the tub and stared at the text thread with Arlena. I hadn't responded the night before. I hadn't needed to. Now I typed, thumb trembling just a little. "You were right. They don't see me. Not as a mother, not even as a person." I hit send. No response came. I didn't expect one. That wasn't the point. The point was letting it out, naming it, etching the truth into some digital wall, so when the cracks came, I could say, "I tried." I warned them. I looked in the mirror, puffy eyes, red lines across my shoulders from the dress, a body that no longer felt like my own. And still, they wanted more. They wanted to claim the child, the credit, the narrative. I pressed my palm to my stomach again. They don't get to rewrite this. For the first time, I heard myself speak with conviction. It wasn't rage, it was declaration. I left the bathroom, shut the door, and leaned my forehead against it for a beat. Then, I walked to my room, grabbed a notebook from the drawer, and wrote the date at the top. The first day, I stopped making it easier for them. And what if this time I refused to disappear? I didn't know what it was yet, but it would start with saying no. 2 days had passed since I hit send on that message to Arlena. No reply. But sometimes the act of speaking out, even quietly, is the reply you need. I'd stayed mostly to myself since then, moving slower, listening more. That afternoon, while coming down the hallway with a glass of water, I caught the tail end of my mother's voice behind her slightly ajar bedroom door. Yes, it's already signed. No contest expected. She won't question it, he never has. The voice was sharp, polished, professional. I froze mid-step. My ears caught another phrase. Title finalized next week. I didn't knock. I just stood there. The walls of that house didn't echo. They absorbed secrets. The conversation ended, and I walked away. Quietly, deliberately. But the silence in my body wasn't still. Something coiled. Tensed. I hadn't thought about the refinancing form in years. Back then, it was during tax season. My mother said it was just paperwork to help her refinance the mortgage. I remember her making a joke about it, unless you plan to take over the whole house. Just sign and help your poor mother out. I didn't ask questions. I was working overtime then, tired, naive, eager to be helpful. Now, the memory felt less like a joke, and more like the first thread that unraveled everything. Later that evening, under the pretense of looking for my prenatal folder, I opened the drawer in her room she always kept locked. It was careless of her to leave the key half hidden in the cup of pens. The papers were all there, not a single line with my name. The title to the house, the mortgage, the insurance policies, every single document listed Callista as the sole owner. I stared at the bold, capitalized name like it was a branding iron. Callista Rain Wilmer. Property owner. I had spent 6 years sending money, contributing to that house, under the impression I was securing a legacy. A home for me and my child. And they'd handed it over to her, without so much as a conversation. I took a photo of the deed with my phone. My hands shook, but not from sadness. It was something colder than that. It was the weight of being erased. I closed the drawer. My body felt foreign again, just like at the clinic, just like in the kitchen, like I was wearing someone else's skin. Varela found me in the hallway 30 minutes later. I know what you saw, she said flatly, as if this were a conversation about spilled milk. You gave her the house. Her reply came without hesitation. Callista was more prepared. You were always in and out of jobs. It wasn't personal. Wasn't personal? I repeated. She gave me that look I'd seen all my life, the one that told me I was making a scene out of nothing. You signed the power of attorney, Dabria. You wanted to help us, remember? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because part of me had. I had wanted to help, but what she did wasn't help. It was theft disguised as maternal judgment. She hadn't just robbed me of a title. She'd used my signature to take away my stake in the life I thought I was building. The rest of the night moved in slow motion. I didn't eat dinner. I didn't sit in the living room. I stayed upstairs, listening to the creak of the house with every step they took below me. Around midnight, I opened my voice memo app and pressed record. If I can give things away this easily, I whispered into the quiet, I better start choosing who's worth it. I sat there in bed, listing things under my breath. My breath. My child. My silence. My truth. The things that still belong to me. They may have taken the house, the narrative, my place at the table. But they hadn't taken me. They took what I built, what I trusted in now. I'm taking something back. And that silence, it scared them more than any argument ever could. Sunday moved slowly. The kind of day where the air felt thick, like the world was waiting for someone to break the stillness. I sat on the porch with swollen feet propped on a wooden stool, watching the birds peck at the feeder I'd filled 2 mornings ago. My body felt tired, but not from pregnancy. This exhaustion came from somewhere deeper, the kind that settles into bone. The screen door creaked open behind me. I didn't turn. You've been awfully low energy lately, Varela said as she passed, not looking at me. Her tone wasn't concerned. It never was. That was her waylayering insult under the guise of observation. I let the words fall between us like dust, let them pile up with the others. The rest of the morning passed in a haze of dishes, humming appliances, and empty footsteps, until she cornered me in the kitchen. We have the church luncheon next Saturday, she said while placing a stack of plates in the cabinet. Don't worry about coming. You're not exactly presentable right now. I stopped drying the glass in my hands. Excuse me? She turned, arms folded. Your face, your body. It's not what people want to see when they're trying to eat and socialize. My stomach twisted. So I'm an eyesore now? Don't twist my words, Debria. All I'm saying is, no, say it. Say what you mean. Her voice dropped. You think the world owes you sympathy just because you're pregnant? Nobody told you to get pregnant, Debria. You did that to yourself. It was like she'd slammed the door on a fragile part of me and didn't even flinch at the sound. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just put the towel down and said, You're right. That caught her off guard just long enough for me to finish. And nobody gave you the right to speak to me like this either. We stood in silence for a full 10 seconds. She blinked, like recalculating her next line. But I walked past her before she could land it. That was the first time I had set a boundary that didn't come with an apology attached. It didn't come with a reason, an explanation, or a softened edge. Just a no. And it rang louder than any yes it'd given her before. That night, after dinner, I didn't touch. I lay on my side in the guest room, phone resting on my pillow. The screen lit up with a new voice memo from Arlena. I kept waiting for them to change too, she said, voice low and unshaken. They never did. She paused. Then, when I left, they said I'd come crawling back. I didn't. I flew. I hit replay. Her tone wasn't bitter, just clear, like someone who'd climbed out of a cave and wasn't going back in to prove there was light. They'll try to guilt you, make it seem like survival is betrayal. It's not. You owe them nothing except the truth. The words sunk in slowly, the way water spreads across dry soil. My thumb hovered over the screen, then hit play again. And again. I didn't respond to her. Didn't need to. Her voice settled something that had been restless in me for weeks, maybe years. The next morning, while making tea, Varela mentioned another family dinner. Callista's inviting some folks from her office. Wear something decent. I stirred the mug without looking up. I'm not going. She turned fully. What? I said, I'm not going. I repeated calmly. And I don't need your permission not to show up. There was no shouting, no dramatic exit, just silence. But the way she stared at me, it was like she'd never seen me before. And maybe she hadn't. Maybe for the first time, I wasn't shrinking to fit the role she'd written for me. I wasn't the problem solver, the one who kept the peace, the one who'd rather bleed in the corner than make a mess in the room. That night, I folded a fresh towel, placed it at the end of my bed, and wrote one sentence in my notebook. No is a full sentence. I didn't need to scream to make myself heard. I just needed to stop whispering. And some receipts don't just prove the past, they protect the future. It was a little past 3 when the door creaked open. No knock, no warning. Just Varela stepping in like it was still her house, her domain, her script to direct. She carried herself like authority was something God handed her, and the rest of us just obeyed. In her hand, a church flyer creased from the car ride, but carefully smoothed as she placed it on my dresser like it meant something sacred. Charity dinner this Saturday, she said, already halfway out. Wear something plain. You'll sit with the pastor's wife. The old me might be nodded, might be asked what time, or if I should bake something, but that version had retired. I folded the flyer in half without even reading it. I'm not going. She froze in the hallway like she'd misheard. But I didn't flinch or offer an explanation. My voice didn't shake. I just looked her dead in the eye and held the silence. Varela blinked. Her mouth opened slightly as if her system glitched, like someone had typed the wrong command and her brain couldn't compute it. I could see the disbelief crawl across her face. She didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She just stood there too long and walked away. That night, as I crossed the hallway toward the laundry room, I heard my name again. Not spoken to me, but about Malika stain someone was trying to scrub out in private. She's refusing to come home to give birth, Varela said from the kitchen. I paused at the doorway. She's acting like we're the enemy. Says she's going to deliver at that clinic across town. I don't even know what I did wrong. Her voice had that high, brittle tone she used when she wanted sympathy, when she needed someone to say, "You've done everything right." Callista's voice followed, sticky sweet like syrup poured over poison. "She's hormonal, Mom. I keep telling you, just let her have her drama. Once the baby comes, she'll come back around. You'll see." I didn't burst in. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app, and typed, "They fear being excluded more than they fear being exposed." That sentence settled into me like armor. Quiet, sharp, and absolutely true. As the evening light faded and dusk painted the sky a tired lavender, Maribeth knocked once and pushed the door open gently. She moved like someone who knew how to avoid making waves. In her hands was a chipped mug of peppermint tea. She set it beside me without a word. I glanced up. She lingered for a moment. "You've got more fire than your mama will ever admit," she said, her voice low but clear. I blinked. "You think so?" She nodded once, slow. "Some of us burn quiet. Doesn't mean we don't burn." My throat closed. I smiled anyway. She took a breath, eyes flicking to the door. Then she leaned in, just enough to whisper, "I've seen things, Dabria. Heard enough to know you're not making it up. If it ever comes to needing someone to say what they saw, I was here. I'll be your witness. Just don't make me go on record unless you truly need it." I didn't cry. I just nodded. Because that was the first time someone had seen my side without needing a transcript. The first time someone believed me without asking for a receipt. But I had them anyway. That night, I opened my laptop and created a folder. I called it Just in Case. At first, it was screenshot texts from my mother, snide messages from Callista, group threads where my name disappeared like I wasn't family. Innocent on the surface, but read twice, and the cracks showed. The tone, the omissions, the rewritten history. Then I added voice clips, from voicemails, from conversations caught in passing. Not full recordings, just enough to capture their tone. The performative kindness, the passive digs, the gaslight wrapped in concern. Each file was labeled, each moment archived. Nothing edited, just truth, saved plainly. I wasn't sure what I was building, evidence maybe, or a reminder, something to look at when they tried to tell me it wasn't that bad, when they tried to twist it back into my fault. I leaned back in the chair, eyes tired but steady. Outside, a soft breeze moved through the window. It smelled like summer ending. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was protection. I clicked sync and whispered to no one in particular. Next time they try to rewrite my story, they better know I've been keeping my own receipts. There's a strange kind of silence that comes before a breaking point. It's not loud or dramatic. It's quiet, steady, measured. And on that Friday morning, I walked straight into it. The house hummed with its usual artificial calm. Everything in its place, everyone playing their parts. I padded into the kitchen, just hoping for a slice of toast or 5 minutes to myself before the day unraveled. Instead, I saw Callista. She was perched at the marble counter like she lived there full time now, golden sunlight curling around her like she'd summoned it. Her phone was propped up on a tripod, and she was mid-sentence, speaking in a soft, sugary tone reserved for her audience. Being a big sister to a struggling mom-to-be is hard, but love wins. I stopped in my tracks. Behind her, on the screen, I saw myself blurry in the background, but unmistakable. My body, my tired eyes, my hand on the fridge handle. I wasn't part of the scene. I was part of the set dressing. I turned and left. Not in anger, just in refusal. I wouldn't give her another angle, another moment to use. Hours later, a message buzzed on my phone from my cousin in Atlanta. "Didn't know Callista was helping raise your baby. So sweet of her." I didn't reply. Just clicked the link she'd attached. It opened to a reel 4 minutes long, stitched together like a Hallmark movie trailer. The title, Sisterhood in Hard Times. The first clip, Callista laying a hand on my belly. Another, her handing me a cup of tea. A third, her tucking a blanket over my legs while I napped on the couch. None of it fake, but none of it full. She took fragments of kindness and shaped them into a performance. the kind that made her look selfless, saintly, like she was single-handedly carrying me through pregnancy. Her followers flooded the comments with praise. She's glowing with love. She's going to be the best aunt. This is what sisterhood looks like. Not one person asked if I was okay. Not one wondered where my voice was in the narrative. It wasn't just manipulation. It was erasure. She edited me out of my own experience. I wasn't a sister. I wasn't even a person. I was a prop in her story of sacrifice and sainthood. By 5, it stopped crying. I'd stopped yelling in my head, too. I just felt still. Hollowed out. I found Varela scrolling through her tablet on the living room couch. She didn't flinch when I walked in. Just tapped the screen casually, like she'd been waiting for me to bring it up. I held out my phone. "You've seen this?" She didn't even blink. "It's just content." "You look fine." My voice dropped. "You knew?" "It's good for the family image." She shrugged. "You should be grateful." I laughed, sharp and low. Grateful? For being turned into a charity case in front of strangers? Callista appeared then, like she had her own dramatic timing. She wasn't flustered. She didn't apologize. Just leaned against the doorframe with a little smirk, like she was already composing her next caption. "You'll take it down eventually," she said. "It's just a moment. Don't overreact." I turned toward her slowly. "You turned my life into your campaign. If it raises awareness, what's the harm?" She replied, voice light, condescending. I scanned the room until I landed on my father, Lyle, sitting in his recliner, reading the paper like the past 30 years hadn't happened. "Dad?" I said. He didn't look up, didn't even pretend to care. "It's not worth fighting about," he mumbled. "Everyone's on edge lately." And that right there was the moment something inside me fractured. Not because he defended them, but because he wouldn't defend anything. Not even me. I left the room before my hands could betray my control. Upstairs, I sat on the edge of my bed, stared out the window for a long time. Then I opened my laptop and pulled up my cloud drive. I created a folder called Proof. Screenshots, links, full video, timestamps, chat logs. Every piece of my story that had been twisted or stolen, I started reclaiming it, one file at a time. Then I opened a blank message. 2. Arlena subject. Just need a place. Text. I need somewhere to stay. Not forever, just until he's born. I hit send. A minute passed. Then 3 dots. Her reply was short, but it landed like oxygen. Come tonight. No guilt, no interrogation, just space, just choice. I stood, walked to my closet, and pulled out my suitcase. I didn't pack in a rush. I didn't cry. I folded everything with care like I was preparing for the next act, not running from the last one. Let them keep the script they'd written for me. I was done being their plot twist, their feel-good accessory, their project. This wasn't rebellion. This was release, and I was finally ready to go. And for once, I wasn't alone in the fight. Saturday morning at Arlena's apartment was quiet in a different way than home had been. Not the kind of silence that made you brace for the next blow. This was the kind where you could hear your own breath and not feel ashamed of it. She'd left early to grab groceries and pick up a second-hand bassinet someone from her church was giving away. I'd stayed behind, folding clothes into neat piles on the bed shed cleared for me, sipping warm ginger tea in slow, steady gulps. The peace lasted until my phone lit up with a single notification. It was from Karina, a high school friend who now worked at the county clerk's office. She'd never messaged me before. "Thought you should see this," the text said, followed by a PDF attachment. I opened it, and then I stopped breathing. The top of the form read, "Petition for Pre-Birth Temporary Custody. Filed by Varela Wilmer and Callista Rain Wilmer." The language that followed made my head spin. They claimed I was emotionally unstable, that I lacked permanent housing, had no reliable partner, and had shown a pattern of disregard for structured support systems. They used words like erratic, detached, risk factor. I dropped the phone on the bed. My hands went cold. I sat down slowly, not because I was dizzy, but because if I didn't, I might shatter. I placed both palms on my belly. "They don't want to help me," I whispered. "They want to replace me." I thought about every time I kept my mouth shut, every favor I agreed to, every decision I let slide to keep the waters still. They'd seen that as permission, worse weakness. Arlena came through the door 20 minutes later, balancing a paper bag and a folded-up bassinet frame. She took one look at my face and dropped the bag on the table. "What happened?" I held up the phone. "They filed to take him. Before he's even born." She walked over, read the first page, then looked at me. "They're trying to erase you." I nodded. "And they're doing it on paper." She didn't ask why or how. She didn't ask what I had done to deserve it. She said, "They're not going to win." We spent the next few hours at the dining table. Arlena opened her laptop. I pulled up my digital folder. Together, we built a timeline appointments ID attended, messages from doctors, screenshots of everything Callista and Varela had said that contradicted their claims. "Do you have any written confirmation that they didn't live with you during prenatal care?" Arlena asked. "I have receipts showing they were out of town. Callista posted a photo from Santa Fe during my second ultrasound." Arlena grinned. "Perfect. Let them prove support with a margarita in hand." We worked in silence after that, heads down, fingers moving. It felt like we were building a case and a lifeboat at the same time. "You don't have to yell to fight," Arlena said as she organized the folders. "You just have to be louder where it counts." Later that night, after she fell asleep on the couch with a heating pad on her back, I sat in her room with my phone balanced on a small stand. I hit record. "My name is Dabria Wilmer. I'm 34 years old. I am pregnant with my first child." I took a breath. "I've been called emotional, unstable, unfit. But let me tell you something, weak people don't leave. Weak people don't fight." I paused, letting the silence settle. They think I'm just going to hand him over, smile politely, while they tell my story their way. But that ends here. I hit stop, named the file, Court Readiness Video 1. Then I made another folder, one I hadn't thought I'd need. Truth they forgot. They're coming for my child. But I've already decided they'll have to go through me first. Peace is quiet. But sometimes, quiet can feel like abandonment. It had been exactly 2 weeks since the petition was served to me. 2 weeks of waking early and going to bed late, not because I couldn't sleep, but because I was building something no one else could see. Wall of evidence, one sheet at a time. Emails, texts, appointment logs, screenshots, witness statements, even doctor notes. Every detail of my reality documented, labeled, and tucked neatly into a binder now pressed tightly to my chest like a shield. I stood in the lobby of the courthouse, inhaling carefully like I had during the prenatal classes, deep through the nose, slow through the mouth. My belly had dropped, heavy and tight, and my hands trembled not from fear, but from restraint. I wasn't just defending myself anymore. I was defending the life I was about to bring into this world. Arlena stood next to me, calm as ever, in a navy blue pantsuit. She didn't ask if I wanted company. She just showed up with silence, with strength, with loyalty that didn't need to be announced. Down the hallway, I spotted them. Varela and Callista entered with a presence like they were walking a red carpet. Hair perfectly styled, lips glossed, smiles smooth and rehearsed. Behind them, their lawyer adjusted his tie, clutching a folder thick with strategy and assumptions. The way they walked calculated. The way they looked at me dismissive. They still thought I was the one who needed saving. They didn't know I came here to end it. The courtroom was cool, understated. The judge, a steely-eyed woman in her 60s, called the session to order, without preamble. She reviewed the petition, made a few notes, and turned to the other side. Varela's attorney began with legal buzzwords, emotional volatility, unstructured support, unfit environmental, delivered with polished detachment. Then Callista took the stand, putting on her best impression of concern. She spoke softly, like she was reading from a bedtime story. "This isn't about taking anything from my sister," she said with a smile. "It's about protecting the child. We're simply concerned for his well-being. We love her, but we worry." Then she dropped it. "We'd like the child to carry the family's name. Callista Rain. Legally, for legacy purposes." I didn't blink, but the entire room shifted. The judge arched an eyebrow. "You're requesting temporary full guardianship, including naming rights, of your sister's unborn child?" Callista kept her tone light. "Just until she's in a more stable situation. It's not about control. It's about what's best for the baby." I stood. I handed my binder to the clerk and nodded toward the flash drive. "Please distribute the evidence and play the file titled Statement 1. The lights dimmed. The screen flickered. There I was, no filters, no edits, seated in Arlena's spare room. My face bare, my voice measured. "I'm not perfect," I said, "but am present. I've been the one listening to his heartbeat, watching the sonograms, holding my breath at every checkup. Alone." My voice didn't waver. "I don't want praise. I don't need approval. I just want to raise my son-me child without people turning him into a brand or a nameplate." I looked directly into the camera, eyes clear. "They want an heir. I want a son. There's a difference." The screen went black. The silence in the courtroom wasn't awkward. It was earned. The judge turned to me. "Ms. Wilmer, do you wish to retain full maternal custody?" "Yes, Your Honor. Do you have support?" "I do now." She lifted her gavel. "Petition denied. Custody remains with the mother. Court is adjourned." Outside, the cold wind swept across the plaza like it was ushering in a new chapter. Callista stormed past, heels clicking furiously. No words. Just the sound of someone who thought they had won walking away, empty. Varela followed, but paused halfway. Her expression, usually so tightly composed, flickered. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was just shock that I didn't break. Then she turned and kept walking. I stood there for a while, hand over my belly, watching cars pass like nothing monumental had just occurred. But everything had changed. I didn't win by yelling, or breaking down, or begging. I won by refusing to be erased. I won by standing still. I didn't win by yelling. I didn't win by proving a point louder than they did. I won by standing still, by refusing to collapse when they expected me to disappear. It's been a month since that final day in court. And slowly, gently, the quiet has crept in. Not the silence of abandonment, but the kind that hums softly after a storm has passed. The kind that says, "You made it." I was rocking my son on our tiny apartment balcony just off 14th Street. The scent of rain drifted in, not the dramatic downpour kind, but the type that clears the air, washes the dust, and makes everything start again. In my lap, his small fingers curled around mine, like he already knew this was home, like he understood on some soul-deep level that he was safe, and that I finally was too. There was no grand victory moment, no camera flash, no thunderous applause. Just peace. And real peace, true, earned peace, it doesn't need an audience. It whispers, then settles in your chest where fear used to live. Since court, the days have been quiet. No calls from that house, no emails, no sudden knocks at the door. Varela never reached out. Callista, she took the video down. No apology, no explanation, just deleted, as if erasing it could erase the harm, as if silence could rewrite history. Lyle sent a card. From a grocery store aisle, probably. The handwriting was rushed. It said, "Hope you're well. That's all. No name, no return address." And honestly, that kind of half-hearted effort felt more like an echo than a message. But Maribeth, she sent a box. Inside was a soft, hand-knitted baby blanket and a note. 5 words, scratched in her unmistakable cursive. I saw. I always saw. That did something to me. Unraveled something I didn't know was still knotted. And then there was Arlena. She kept showing up. Never loud, never dramatic. Just there with groceries, with a warm smile, with backup baby wipes when I ran out. Her presence was the kind of quiet support people overlook. but it held me up more than any speech ever could. There are still absences that ache. There are moments, usually when I watch my son sleep, when I wonder what I'll tell him one day, about the people who chose not to know him. But the ache doesn't stab like it used to. It's more like a healed scar now. Still sensitive, still real, but no longer raw. Most nights, after I lay him down, I write. Sometimes to him. Sometimes to the girl I used to be, the one who thought she had to shrink herself to fit into a family version of love. The one who said sorry just for taking up space. I don't edit. I don't reread. I just pour it out. Let it go. What happened, it was never just about court, or custody, or money. It was about space. The space I finally took for myself. The space between who they told me I was, and who I actually am. For too long, I thought love was something I had to earn. I thought survival meant staying quiet. I still flinch sometimes when I hear an unknown number calling. Still check the locks twice at night. Healing isn't a straight line. It loops, it stutters, it doubles back. But I'm learning to hold the pauses, to sit with them, to breathe through them without letting them own me. The other morning, I pulled out his birth certificate again. Not because I needed to, just because I could. His name was printed there in bold, first, middle, last. No compromises. No hyphen to tie him to a legacy I didn't choose. No ghosts written in ink. Just him. Just me. You won't grow up wondering if your voice matters, I whispered to him that night, kissing his forehead. I'll make sure of it. Then I turned off the lamp, walked to the window, and let the city lights find me. The sky was folding into night, but a soft ribbon of orange still lingered along the horizon. Like even the dark understood it wasn't the end. I exhaled not to let go of the past, but to walk forward without dragging it. That's what peace really is. It's not forgetting, it's deciding you don't need their permission anymore to be whole. Maybe you've been where I've been sitting quietly, hoping that silence would earn you peace. But here's what I learned the hard way. Silence doesn't protect you. Boundaries do. Truth does. And sometimes, walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I didn't wait for permission to live my life, and neither should you. If you've ever been made to feel invisible, I hope my story reminded you that your voice still counts. Maybe it's time to reclaim it. What about you? Have you ever had to stand up to your own family just to protect your peace? Tell me below. I'd love to hear your story. If this video touched you, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. If it didn't connect with you, that's okay too. Let me know why and where you are in your own journey. And hey, if you want to hear more real stories that hit deep, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There's more coming, stories that heal, stories that matter.